All right, guys, promised you another very special guest. And there's like I mentioned to Wendy before we came on today. Unfortunately, a lot of times in the world that we live in and the country that we live in, unfortunately, a lot of times it takes disaster or tragedy to see things get done. And Wendy, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about uh, the wrong way warning that you were talking about, and kind of tell where this for you. First off, tell us kind of where this came from, and then we'll just delve deeper in, if you will.
Absolutely. So my husband, Michael James Jackson, he passed away on August 13th, 2022. So we're coming up on just 2 years. Um, he was the director of technology for a big corporate company here in Dallas, Texas for almost 20 years. And for the later part of his career, he dedicated himself to taking on projects that were mainly using technology for social good. And as a result, from his passing, he had a former team of developers, engineers, who since then have, been able to get careers at some of the big companies in the nation. And through this process, we had many conversations through our grief journey about what would Michael want us to do. And, it's hard to see the silver lining when something like this happens, especially for myself. And he had very close relationships with each of these individuals. And we just kept thinking about how we could turn this tragedy into something positive. And so through a lawsuit that I brought on to the bar that overserved the young lady that killed him, we were able to find out that there's technology that is currently in place that alerts society and the neighboring jurisdictions when there is a wrong way driver. But the only people that are technically alerted are like law enforcement or the actual highways themselves. So during moments before the accident, approximately this woman was traveling the wrong way for about 8 minutes. Everybody knew that there was a wrong way driver. The only person that didn't know, or better yet, the only people that weren't aware that there was a wrong way driver were the people that were in imminent danger. And one of those people happened to be my husband. And so through that process, we were trying to figure out how can we eliminate this from happening again? Or how can we help the public and society from this happening again? And that's where we figured out a solution. And we came up with this tech initiative. And that's where the Michael alert has basically come about. And what it essentially is, it's something very similar to the Amber Alert. It uses the same integration technology
Mhm.
through the 𝐈𝐻 system, and it sends an alert to the people that are in that close vicinity, typically about a 6-mile radius, and it would alert you or I if there was a wrong way driver in the area. So normally you would see it pop up on your phone, and nowadays most of the cars they have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So you would see it, you can opt in or opt out, just like a silver alert or an amber alert, and you would get it on your phone. And it would tell you, hey, there's a wrong way driver in the area. Please move over to the right or go to your nearest exit. And that is where my team and I have been constantly pushing and have met with state officials, politicians, on the state and federal level, trying to get this pitched and get it approved.
And what has been the main sticking point that you're running into?
The main sticking point, or for lack of better words, why it hasn't gotten off the ground, uh, there just isn't, nobody has cared enough to support it or get behind it. Um, I had one person who works for the Department of Transportation here in the state of Texas. And she said she didn't like to call it an accident or a tragedy. She liked to call it an event because it doesn't always lead to a death. But unbeknownst to other people and to the general public, that isn't exactly true. Again, through this lawsuit that I brought on, I know for a fact that it happens more often than not. Just here in Texas, in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, we have 1.6 wrong-way drivers per day.
Wow.
And that statistic was actually pulled from some research that was in 2021, and those numbers have rose significantly since then. And we're now in 2024. That was 3 years ago. That's just here in my area where I live.
And not only the loss of your husband, I mean, we've seen bus crashes, we've seen sports teams, we've seen vans so many times. And is it a money issue? Is that the biggest thing that you're seeing as far as implementation? How much is the implementation cost uh, as far as making something like this happen?
Well, I'm glad you asked because that is something that I've been asked. Is it a sponsorship? Do we need to get donors? How much would it cost? The answer is nothing. The solution is there. It's literally maybe if there is a cost, it would probably be just like testing it and making sure that it works correctly. But as far as implementing it and putting it out to the general public, it costs nothing.
It'd just be an additional to the iPaws, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
how much how much tech savvy have you had to become as a result of all of this? And are you finding maybe some more links to your husband as well through all of the research that you've been doing as well?
So my background is not in technology. I actually have a background in legal and in education. And, he worked in technology his whole entire career, but I've somehow now been catapulted into this new realm. And I'll be honest, it's kind of a foreign language at times, but I've been able to maneuver my way and be able to be a part of something bigger than I would have ever imagined.
And what do you
Yeah.
think is what do you think the impact of having this implemented? I mean, how many lives do you think that we can see truly changed by this?
Well, I think the impact would be significant because even just since Michael's passing here, just in my area, you hear about it every other weekend. And, not to shine light on something that just happened recently, but Justin Timberlake, for example, just got pulled over for drunk driving. And you hear about it more often than not. And it may not always result in a tragedy and someone passing, but for me, for myself, I lost a dear friend of mine to a wrong way drunk driver just 7 years before Michael passed. And never in a million years did I think that it would actually impact me personally again. So since this has happened, I hate people come up to me all the time and they tell me, this happened to my friend, or this happened to a relative, or I know someone's father or mother or sibling. And it just happens more often than not. And I truly believe that the impact would be tremendous.
Now, is this something only for like large metropolitan areas, or is this something that can even be rolled out on a more rural basis as well? Because I know technology, I live in the rural areas myself, so I know how
Mhm.
technology is a little slower rolling out to places like this. But would that have an effect as well?
Well, as of now, our goal is to have it in the bigger cities, especially the cities that have that technology in place. Like for me, for example, every day that I leave my house, I have to go and get on that same turnpike that Michael was driving on every single day, which our tax dollars pay for. But the goal is initially to have it in those larger cities and eventually expand, and not just in Texas, because again, the availability and the ability to actually push it out and implement it is there. So it wouldn't just be a Texas thing. It would be a nationwide initiative.
And for you, what to get responses back and people's support, what does that mean to you on a personal level to hear other people that are impacted by it that also want to see a change made?
Absolutely. I have people call me, text me, DM me, and I think hearing my story, my journey, I think on a personal level, I do feel like I have some type of responsibility because I know that this is what Michael would eventually want. He wouldn't want me to be at home sulking and crying and being upset. He would somehow say, you know, Wendy, this is your time and you got to make a difference somehow. There's so many things that went wrong that evening. And so on a personal level, it is something that I've taken the time. I quit my job to put all my time and effort and dedicate myself to this. So it would mean a lot.
And how much has this, the dealings with politicians, the runarounds, the promises, the forgotten promises, I mean, how much has that changed your view on the world around us as well?
It changes your perspective. You quickly find out that it's not like you see things on TV. There's a lot of red tape. Um, the bureaucratic system is not what we all think it is. And it's not always fair. So everything changes. Your whole perspective changes. And the people that you would have thought would have cared a little bit more and would have helped you support, that it's not always the case.
And
Even the people that are, including the people that are actually behind and work for the transportation department. No, it's very disappointing.
yeah, yeah. Now, is there a point where you ever just feel like you fought too hard? Are there days that you just want to give up and say this is going to be somebody else's battle?
No, not yet. No, no. I haven't reached that point. No, not yet. Mm-mm.
Now, personally, what type of personal battles and struggles has this caused for you? Because I know putting yourself out there, I mean, it obviously, well, the world we live in, you put yourself out there and you become a bullseye for some, right?
I mean, that's a loaded question. The struggles, every day is a struggle. From the moment you wake up and your dealings with family, friends, colleagues, ex-coworkers, not just myself, but my late husband's, um, trying to find who you are all over again, your sense of worth. You know, when you've been married to someone and you have a partner, a lot of who you are revolves around them. So that's a struggle in itself. Trying to go through your grief journey at the same time as you're trying to be on a board, you know, for his former company, and while you're trying to navigate a lawsuit, while you're trying to pitch a technology project, on top of trying to get yourself back to some type of normalcy, is a lot. That's the best way I can put it.
Yeah, death and grief. I know I know what you're going through. I mean, I didn't lose my partner, but we've had a lot of loss in our family the last couple of years. And unlike you, I allowed the loss to quiet me and to make me stop doing things. But hats off to you for allowing it to motivate you. You're an inspiration. I will put it that way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
Wendy, I appreciate you taking some time out with us today to talk about the Michael alert, and I love the work that you've put into this. And keep your head up, and don't let those struggle days bring you down, girl.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.